All right, let's talk Linux commands, but we're not just going to rattle off a list. Nope. Today, we're building an essential toolkit for any system admin. These are the commands you're going to reach for every single day to manage, troubleshoot, and really, truly master any Linux system. So let's dive in. Yeah, this quote really hits the nail on the head. We're not talking about nice to haves here. You got to think of these commands as the language of the machine itself. This is the essential vocabulary that sysadmins use day in, day out to figure out what's wrong, check on a server's health, and just, keep the lights on. Okay, so let's crack open this toolkit, shall we? Look, the goal here isn't to just memorize a random list of commands. That's not helpful. Instead, we're going to group them by what they do. This way, you build a kind of mental map, right? So you'll know exactly which tool to grab for the job, whether you're dealing with a painfully slow server or trying to figure out where all your disk space went.
All right, first up in our toolkit, the diagnostic tools. You know that feeling when a server is just sluggish or something just feels off? Well, these are the commands you're going to use to check the system's pulse and see exactly what's going on under the hood right now, in real time.
So this is a perfect example of how our tools get better over time. Your server's slow, right? The classic old school command is top. It's great, it gives you a live raw feed of your CPU and memory. But its modern upgrade, htop, is a total game changer. It's colorful, you can scroll around, and you can literally just point and click to kill a process that's causing trouble. It's top, but like on steroids. This question right here, this is probably one of the first questions you'll ask when things go south. Is the server running out of memory? Because a server that's gasping for RAM is a server in deep trouble. So how do we get a fast, clear answer to that? Simple, the free command. You just type free-m and bam, you get this super simple, super critical snapshot of your memory. The -m just means show me in megabytes, which is way easier to read. You see the total, what's used, and what's free. It is an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle when you're troubleshooting performance. Okay, to finish up our diagnostics, we've got two more vital signs to check. First is uptime. It does exactly what it says, tells you how long the server's been up and running. But it also gives you this thing called the load average. That's a huge clue about its stability. Then you've got netstat. Think of it as your network detective. It'll show you every single active connection and all the open ports. Super important for seeing what's actually listening for traffic on your machine. All right, let's reach back into our toolkit and pull out the next set of tools. This group is all about digital housekeeping. And trust me, this is one of a sysadmin's most common jobs, managing files and that all-important precious disk space they eat up. Oh man, we have all been here, right? You get that dreaded alert. Disk is almost full. And you're just sitting there like, but why? It's so frustrating, but it's an incredibly common problem. The good news is, our toolkit has the perfect 1-2 punch to solve this exact mystery. And here's that 1-2 punch. The workflow is simple, but it's so powerful. First, you start big picture with df-h. That -h just stands for human readable, so you're not looking at a giant wall of numbers. This shows you the overall disk usage. Then, once you see which partition is full, you dive into that directory and use du-sh star to find the exact folder that's the biggest culprit. It's the perfect way to narrow things down. Now, managing files isn't just about how much space they take up. It's also, and maybe more importantly, about security and access. That's where chmod comes in. This command is your tool for setting permissions. It controls who can read a file, who can write to it, and who can execute it, run it like a script. This is absolutely fundamental for locking down a Linux system. And permissions have a partner, ownership. You control that with the chown command. Now listen, here's the key difference because it can be confusing. Chmod sets the rules, like what can be done with a file. Chown sets the owner, as in who those rules apply to. You absolutely need to understand both to get your application security right. But what happens when the files you need aren't on this server? What if they need to be on a totally different machine? Well, that's where SCP, or Secure Copy, comes in. It's an absolute must-know. It lets you transfer files safely across the network using SSH. This is essential for everything from pushing out new code to making backups on another machine. Okay. So we've checked the system's vitals, we've organized our files, now it's time to grab the tools that let us control the software that's actually running. We're talking about the processes and services that make the server do its job. Okay, let's imagine a scenario. Your web server is acting weird. How do you even find the specific process for it? Well, first you use ps-ef to list every single thing running on the system. But whoa, that's a huge list, so you use this magic symbol, the pipe, that vertical bar. It lets you funnel all that output directly into another command, grep, which then acts like a search filter. It's how you find the needle in the haystack. So once you've found that one rogue process, you'll see it has a unique process ID, or PID, and now you can stop it. The kill command does pretty much exactly what it sounds like, and if you use the -9 flag, well, that's the big red button. It's the ultimate override that forcefully terminates any process, even one that's totally frozen. It really is the final word. Now, for managing those big, long-running applications, things like web servers or databases, modern Linux systems use systemctl. You should think of this command as your main control panel. With this one tool, you can start services, stop them, restart them, and check on their status. For day-to-day server management, this one is absolutely critical. All right, for our final set of tools, we're going to put on our detective hats. Because when things go wrong, you need to investigate. And the server's logs, well, they're like the server's diary. They record everything that happens. Learning how to read them is honestly one of the most powerful skills you can possibly have. So when you're trying to figure out why something broke, your very first stop should pretty much always be journalctl. This is the new centralized logbook for modern Linux. You run journalctl-xe, and it'll show you a detailed history of what's been going on, and it's smart enough to highlight any errors and point you right to where the trouble started. But what about right now? If journal control is for digging into the past, tail F is for watching the present unfold in real time. It literally follows a log file, so you see new lines pop up on your screen the instant they're written. It's just an incredible tool for watching what an application is doing live, especially when you're testing something or trying to troubleshoot a tricky bug. And there we have it. We've just assembled a really powerful toolkit. We've got tools for monitoring, for managing files, for controlling processes, and for digging through logs. But, just having the tools is only half the battle. What does it really mean to master them? What we've really built here is more than a list. It's a mental model. You now have a whole category of tools for each big job a sysadmin has to do. It was never about just memorizing 15 commands. It's about having a complete set of solutions so you can monitor, manage, and troubleshoot your system like a pro. And that is the most important takeaway here. Real mastery isn't about memorizing syntax. It's about looking at a problem and just instinctively knowing which tool in your kit is the right one for the job. And just like any other craft, that confidence only comes from practice and getting your hands sturdy. So there you go. This isn't just some list of commands. This is the foundational toolkit for any Linux system administrator. You've got the tools, you've got the concepts, you've got the workflow. So the only real question left is, with these tools in hand, what problem are you going to go solve first?